This week in the parish of bourses and market structure, all-day Mirage, mixed markets, Nasdaq Sparkle and HK IPO Shake Up, ICE launches ID private credit, and my name is Patrick Elliott. Welcome to the Bourse Business Weekly Digest. It's the Exchange Invest Weekly Podcast, episode 356. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is a very brief reduction of highlights amongst the key headlines from the week in market structure. All the analysis of the many events and happenings from the past 7 days can be found in Exchange Invest Daily Subscriber Newsletter, the unique guide to the Bourse business, sent daily to your inbox. More details at exchangeinvest.com. Let's start with a parish note and campanology in space and apology. Well, sorry about this, but it seems perhaps not the first time ever, PLY managed to predict something that happened 5 years ago. Last week in Exchange Invest, I was discussing Abu Dhabi Exchange celebrating a new derivatives contract with some real-bound bell ringing, and I rashly cited EI 3644. Campanology from the White House to the railways. I anticipate an outer space opening bell by 2030 at the latest. So, thanks to the good offices of Stefan Yeko at New York Stock Exchange, I was politely corrected that actually the orbital environment of space had actually hosted already a New York Stock Exchange bell 5 years ago on 17th of September 2021, no less. The whole story was an Exchange Invest. I suppose one could split a hair because actually that was a closing bell rather than an opening one. However, nonetheless, I'm going to make profuse apologies for making a prediction which had already happened. T-minus 1,830 days. Meanwhile, I'm excited to say the autumn fall season of conferences is coming up fast. I'm delighted to confirm I'm giving a keynote speech to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Macedonian Stock Exchange at their annual conference this year. Join me in Ohrid in September. That's going to be the 21st to the 23rd. And don't forget, in November, the AFM will have an Epic Trends Day, which we are delighted to host in Valletta, Malta. You can click to watch an epic trailer by dropping by the AFM organization site, or indeed going to the homepage of exchangeinvest.com. Just FYI, the event is already over half full with 105-ish days to go when this podcast is published. So if you want to attend, reserve your place now, as there's a serious risk of this selling out well ahead of November 12-13. Thanks for listening to Exchange Invest Weekly. We welcome your feedback. You can contact me directly, Patrick at derivativesvision.com, with any comments. Meanwhile, if you enjoyed this show, we would welcome you giving us a thumbs up. Or if you have time, a positive review will always be welcome, wherever you find this podcast. Over in big carnage, not quite as seismic as Martin Luther nailing his 95 Theses on the door of the Castle Church in Wittenberg on October the 31st, 1517, and thus began Protestantism, but the 12 arguments against the Clarity Act by former SEC staffer John Reed Stark were worth reading all the same, of course. The problem was that actually it wasn't clear the bill could pass, and as we were recording this podcast, the bill itself was dropped. Where did you read about that being predicted? Well, of course, nowhere else other than BitCarnage and Exchange Invest. If you enjoyed this excerpt, you may be interested to know you can read BitCarnage every day in Exchange Invest. Alternatively, if you want to follow BitCarnage, the daily update on happenings in the world of crypto and digital assets, you can find BitCarnage as a standalone on Substack. Over in the world of mainstream exchanges, Hong Kong exchanges is eyeing confidential filings, a lower market cap thresholds for startups, and more as part of their IPO listings. Revamp, the London Stock Exchange, is looking to launch LSE24, a new 24/5 trading venue. Hopefully it works better than their private market, which has been almost moribund. And at the same time, why? Why would investors want to trade their ETPs through London nowadays? Anyway, for single stocks will not be traded through this means. Hong Kong exchange is undoubtedly therefore keeping up the pressure on the country club duopoly in the USA as it seeks to build on its Southeast Asian leadership with a new round of considered IPO reforms. The London Stock Exchange, on the other hand, Intercontinental Exchange to be applauded. They're launching a uniform ID system for private credit with Apollo as a pivotal backer, while the Zimbabwean ZEEX opens to support SME fundraising. Elsewhere in markets, sad to hear that Bond Auction have announced their closure, a primary market for debt instruments, which couldn't quite get the required traction as a frequent tale of electronic bond market innovation. Kalshi, meanwhile, have launched their election hub for prediction markets ahead of the midterm elections. Mega results week. All the results were in Exchange Invest daily, the newsletter no person can afford to be without in capital markets and market structure. For the sake of this podcast, let's look at some edit highlights. Nasdaq, stunning numbers. 3-month revenues up 20%, 3-month net income up 12.2%, 6 months revenues up 11.3%, 6-month net income up 21.5% off the back of the SpaceX IPO and a phenomenal first half for transatlantic IPOs. Nasdaq has demonstrated another sound quarter of results under Dana Friedman. Interactive brokers also starring with great numbers this quarter, amongst others. Stay tuned for the rest of the season. In new markets, Euronext star milling setting up a private market to rival the UK. That's the LSE's private market, which hasn't really done a great deal. While in the Qatar financial zone, a new cash commodity hall for trading diamonds has opened in Qatar as the Qatar Diamond Exchange. Not much in deals, although NPM, that's Nasdaq Private Markets, no longer owned by Nasdaq, has announced the acquisition of Nasdaq Fund Securities, which were owned by Nasdaq when they were bought by Nasdaq Private Markets. If you fancy some financial insights with moving pictures, don't forget to check out our live streams, Tuesday, 5 o'clock London time, midday New York time, coming soon. They will be back with a new season. It's the IPO video live show. Catch the back episodes on LinkedIn and YouTube at IPO-VID. And don't forget, Exchange Invest is our 7-day-a-week publishing platform with a Sunday supplement as well as a Saturday edition, both free. Sign up for those at exchangeinvest.com. And while you're at it, sign up for your free 7-day trial for exchangeinvest.com, the bulletin of the bourse of business. Our book of the week this week is a fabulous comic book, Adam Smith's The Wealth of Nations, a graphic novel by Eamon Butler, who was a most illuminating guest on IPO-VID number 111, Adam Smith, and he was talking about him 300 years on. This graphic novel is designed to strip away the complexity of Smith's The Wealth of Nations. Thus, with the invisible hand behind us in product markets, the CME is launching sorghum basis futures to meet a global feed, export and biofuel demand. Nodal Exchange are announcing a plan to launch hourly power futures contracts August 31st for 168 new contracts, and Kalshi are seeking to launch perpetual futures for precious metals. Over in technology, Connemara EP3, they're expanding the EP3 platform to support bilateral matching and new market models. Wonderful to see. They'll be able to provide this service for more customers across the market spectrum. Meanwhile, BMLL and Sigma AI have partnered to deliver a historically benchmarked real-time execution intelligence platform. Great use that of former great minds from Euronext, none other than Sigma AI CEO Andy Simpson, Tadawul's strategy genius Lee Hodgkinson, who is chairman of BMLL, but I think due to stand down in the near future, and BMLL's CEO Paul Humphrey himself, all alumni of the Euronext organization. In regulation, the SEC has settled a freedom of information suit with Coinbase. The agency is paying $150,000 over the lost Gary Gensler text messages, cheap at half the price. Just imagine how much Gensler would have charged the market if they'd done the same thing. LME Clear have confirmed the appointment of Julie Carruthers as chairman of the board, and ASX. The exodus begins. Retirement of the Chief Financial Officer, Andrew Tobin, someone who was brought in by a previous CEO, there have been so many, in order to manage to look after that organization's finances, just as ASX was moving into complete management torpor. In China, a bit of scandal there. Fang Jinghai, former deputy of top financial regulator, is under investigation. He's a member of the CSRC board, and actually that's a multitude of different CSR officials have been brought under investigation or prosecuted in recent years. All the details were, of course, as ever in Exchange Invest. And finally, if we look towards the big world, well, let's look at something very quick. Fun fact, Venezuela has the longest Caribbean Sea coastline with 1,740 miles of beach. And on that mysterious and magnificent note, thank you for listening to this EI Weekly Podcast 356. Join us daily via exchangeinvest.com, or if you have a new exchange you'd like built, get in touch. My name is Patrick L. Young, and I wish you a great week in life and markets.
This show relates to the business of bourses. It is not to be construed as investment advice, nor are we making any investment recommendations. Please consult an investment advisor before you make any investments, and for goodness sake, do your due diligence and do not make investments without complying with the regulations in your home state. Exchange Invest cannot be held responsible for any investment decisions made as a result of our program, which is for entertainment purposes only. The material herein is copyright Patrick L. Young at the date of publication, while our music and sound effects are sourced from copyright-free sources. Thanks for listening to Exchange Invest Weekly, the exchange of information.